podcast, an aberration of sound and noise, a mixture of hope and defamation, a signal to aliens from another galaxy that this planet is not worth the trouble. Behold our backwash, believe in our blight, beggar your imaginations with our bountiful bliss bombs. We humbly request that you take this moment to succumb to our madness and adhere to the principles of chaos. Now, for your oral pleasure, here are your hosts, Dave, Cory, and Scott.
Hey folks, welcome back. This is Cory.
Welcome back. This is Dave.
And this is Scott praising Satan.
Praise Satan.
Yeah, fuck yeah, praise Satan, baby. Yeah, got my nuts out and everything.
I'm praising it, Satan, all over the pavement. I am putting my nuts on the pavement and scraping. Yeah!
It's definitely more energy than take one.
Yes. There's nothing like praising Satan with scraping your nuts on the pavement. I mean, nothing really says it quite like that. It's not real devotion.
Speaking of the three of us getting older.
Boy, when did the water in the toilet get so cold?
Well, you know, that's how it goes. They're
Well,
called danglers.
All right, so this week we've had some interesting albums. In round one, Dave will be defending the Sex Pistols with their one and only album, Never Mind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. Going up against Scott, defending Dr. John's psychedelic Gris album.
No.
No?
You mispronounced another one.
Or is it Gris? I had it right the first time.
You had it right the first time we said it, yeah.
Yeah, there's no S.
Yeah. There's no S. Well, there is an S, but it's a silent S.
Yes.
Time's the charm, Cory.
Yeah. Gris.
There you go.
Yep. And in round two, I will be defending Prince, 1999, and Dave will be defending Green Day's American Idiot.
Yeah, I drew the punk card this week. I got Sex Pistols and Green Day.
You did,
Lucky
and you
you.
can draw a direct line between the two.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay, I don't think we have any other announcements or anything, so we can... All right, Scott, well, you've got your balls out, you've scraped them against the pavement, so I presume you're ready to go with Dr. John.
I have and I am.
And that pavement's got to be cold up there.
Well, it's pretty chilly today, yeah. As a matter of fact, I went out to feed the dogs, and my balls were like, oh, my God! They slammed back up into my throat. Yeah, so anyway, Dr. John. Gris. Oh, boy. Where to start? This album blew more hot chunks than an alcoholic at Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, it shit the bed more than an incontinent Mormon after a bar of X-Lax. It pissed itself worse than any third-rate Taiwanese hooker after a back-alley hand job. So, here we are. Dr. John, real name, Carlton Winthorpe Ogilvy III, provincial white boy, fat man, and overall idiot of the realm. I'm going to tell you a story of how young Carlton got his start, and then I actually listened to this fucking travesty and woe. I am here to tell you. Okay? While listening to this album, I simultaneously wanted to slam my dick in a door and watch Disney cartoons. I felt like I had been possessed by the spirits of a bad carnival show Barker and several episodes of Different Strokes, all at once. I felt like I had been face-fucked with a spork the entire time I was forced to listen to this abomination. Oh, I can see your disbelief from here. Okay. Let's take this abomination piece of shit track by fucking track and try to figure out why, in the name of Satan, this thing made it onto the Rolling Stone top 500 albums of all time. Okay,
Praise Satan.
Ready? Praise Satan. Track 1, Gris Gumbo Ya Ya. Oh, for fuck's sake. We start with this. It sounds like someone beating a tin can, and then Dr. John singing, talking. Did he steal the shit from Lou Reed? He mumbles his way through several minutes of garbage about how fucking voodoo he is, and then he sounds like a moronic white boy trying to have some soul, and there just ain't enough po' boys in the world to make that happen. Next, we move on to Dance Kalimba Da Boom. Da actual fuck. This one sounded like a spoon band out back of a Golden Corral that was begging for meth money. But, it's just fucking terrible with like a Disney twist to it, just to make it even more awful. Then we move on to Mama Roo. As if it was going to get better. I mean, no, it got worse. People, actually called this tribe sexy when I was looking up, reviews of this thing. Nope. It sounds like a bad porn ripoff, but with some soulful backup singers backing up his fake soul voice. Just flat out garbage. Your mom would have scalded his balls with gumbo if she had been around. Moving on. Dance Fambeau. Look out, the meth beggars are back, now outside the local Arby's.
Is that the same Arby's that the guy took the shit on the manager's desk at? Just asking.
It might have been. It's just a bad collection of noise and unimaginative lyricism. So let's please be done with this. Oh, no. We've got Croker Court Bullion. Now this. Let me count the actual ways that I hated listening to this shit. Someone with a fucking terrible nose whistle, a guy with a shitty sounding organ, someone falling down the stairs with a drum set, someone trying and failing to play a guitar while simultaneously trying to tune it at the same fucking I mean, it was just a fucking horrid cacophony of noise that was more reminiscent of a train wreck than anything actual musical. And finally, we moved on to Jump Sturdy. Okay, it was like holy shit, it's a basic bad blues song. It's like 12-bar blues or some shit. It's the only thing on this album that has any musicality to it, and that it was amateur at best. The lyrics attempted to tell a story of a voodoo woman named Jump Sturdy, of all the fucking names. Yeah, it makes no sense though. And then there was that goddamn tin can banging through the entire fucking song, or was it a ride cymbal? Who knows? I don't know, but it made my bladder twitch a lot. And finally, landing square on our collective balls for the finale, I Walk on Gilded Splinters. This just sums up the entire experimental shitboat that is Dr. John. But really, the dude was he just high when he did this? I don't know. And somehow, he convinced the rest of the band to get just as wasted as he was. The drums are all over the place, the rest of the music is somehow incidental and awful all at once, with weird horn flourishes and bizarre keyboard parts tossed in for good measure. No, really, the drums sounded like someone just threw the kit down a fucking elevator shaft along with a goddamn drummer, I kid you not. And they recorded the result, for fuck's sake. So whoever the crack monkey is that put this garbage into the top 500, well, you, sir, need to be fired, taken out back and sold for a cheap shot of bourbon by a fourth-rate washboard player, and then sold into slavery in a Chinese Nike factory where you will live out your days chained to a sewing machine. I rest my case.
Way to defend an album.
Do I even have to go now?
I mean, really.
This is going to be the shortest episode of this podcast since we started.
Exactly. When I heard this, I said, if I were to put one of my insane fever dreams to film, this would be the soundtrack. Yeah. Right here.
Yeah, although, I mean, that's kind of what he was going for.
I mean, I felt like I was living inside the film The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Oh, God, that's an old reference.
Yeah.
Is that Lisa Bonet?
Bill Pullman getting his balls hammered to a board.
Yes, yeah, that's what I always remember about that film, and most of it is sitting there going, oh my God, this is creepy, voodoo
that was
creepy.
The best part.
Yeah. Now, would you believe in the 2003 and the 2012 top 500, this album ranked at 143.
Get the fuck out of
Before
here.
it finally, as I think we would all agree, plummeted below 350.
It shouldn't be on the list.
Now, yes, it is vaguely reminiscent of Piper in some ways. LSD and psychedelia in 67 was all the rage. I get it. I try to imagine if I was like some 12-year-old boy finding music in the 60s, would I have picked this one up? And I don't think so. I mean, my 12-year-old self did, lean towards prog after discovering early Rush albums. But I don't think this one would have ever made it into my collection.
Oh, fuck no.
This was, I think in some ways, this kind of reminds me a little bit of the conversation we had around Kiss and some of these other artists who were more about their stage shows than the actual music. Because Dr. John did, after he kind of developed his character, he put together this crazy-ass tour because he absolutely committed to the character. I mean, he would come out on stage with, snakeskin and beads and feathers. For a while, he had a guy touring around with him by the name of Prince Kiyama, who would come out during the set and bite the heads off of live chickens and drink their blood on stage with nude dancers dancing behind them. I mean, they absolutely committed to this whole voodoo bit and actually not just committing to the whole voodoo bit, but committing to the character too. And Dr. John has said that he believes that a lot of what became of David Bowie and Alice Cooper and Elton John with these big, huge, oversized, somewhat fake stage personas, he really feels like he deserves some of the credit for prompting that trend.
Oh, please.
Now, I did say with all of his theatrics, it's kind of amazing that Alice Cooper is not in the top 500.
That is wrong.
I mean, it's the same kind of theatrics.
Yeah.
It is, actually.
It is.
And I guess I didn't realize that Alice wasn't on the list.
Alice should be on that
I had to
list.
look, and I was like, no, he's not. And that, I would rather see Alice Cooper on here than Dr. John.
Really, I mean, Rolling Stone, go out back and scrape your nuts on the floor and just get Dr. John off this list.
Now, wait, if they go out back, there's no floor there. It'd be cement
Whatever.
at best, yes.
Could you? I'm wondering why that is. Could you make an argument that, all right, so if you take these acts that are more for their stage shows than the quality of the music, Dr. John, Kiss, Alice Cooper, could you make the argument that Alice Cooper doesn't belong there because what he was doing you can't really point to any innovation? And what I mean by that is, with Kiss, you can argue that they completely rethought the way live albums ought to sound, right? With Dr. John, you can make the argument that whether you like it or not, he was taking in all of these various influences of music around New Orleans and pulling them together in a way nobody had done before. With Alice Cooper, what do you say? Like, where's the innovation there? And I wonder if that's clearly, because I didn't even know Alice wasn't on the list, so I'm clearly making this up as I go along, but I wonder if that's one possible rationale for it.
I don't think that it was a case of innovation, though, as to who they chose to put on the list. I think it was just they went by what they thought was popular. I mean, Kiss was excessively popular. I think they were more masters of marketing than anything, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Hands down, they win in that department. Musically, it's catchy, at least. But Dr. John, that bullshit wasn't even catchy. Oh, God. You couldn't tap your toe to that garbage.
Well, it's. I mean, Cory made the connection to Piper, and
yeah,
there is something reasonable there that if you want to sit down and listen to this record, I strongly recommend getting your hands on some good drugs first.
And Dr. John must have had some serious drugs if he had to leave Louisiana to go to L.A.
He had a
because he had
huge
drug
heroin habit.
and police issues. Yeah.
He was a heroin junkie, yeah.
Yeah, had a huge heroin habit. He did have, I mean, we talk about, though, influence and some of these other albums. Dr. John definitely did have some sort of longer lasting influence. If probably a lot of people know him mainly from TV commercials, because post this sort of whole night tripper persona, he did a lot of TV commercial jingles. Popeye's Chicken, Scott Tissue, Oreo cookies. He did the commercial for. If you're a kid of the '90s, you might remember the TV show Blossom. He was was singing on the theme song to the show Blossom.
What?
And,
wow!
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a fan of the Muppets, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, Dr. Teeth was directly inspired by Dr. John.
Yes,
Nice.
I can see that. Yes, the same voice, the same kind of look. Yeah.
And Scott, you also mentioned the last track, "I Walk on Gilded Splinters." That song has stuck around too. It's been done by the Neville Brothers, Cher, the Allman Brothers. And the one I really didn't know about would appreciate it, Jello Biafra.
Wow.
Which, for people who don't know who Jello Biafra is, former lead singer of the punk band, the Dead Kennedys.
Fuck yeah.
Who later went on to do all sorts of things, including, I don't know if he's still doing this or not, but I know he went through a period where he was doing all spoken word albums.
That's what Jello's doing now. He's doing
Is that still his
word.
shtick? Yeah. Well, he covered
great.
the Dr. John song.
Wow. Okay.
Damn.
Well, I guess if you had to cover one.
If you had to pick one.
Gee, I don't know if I can replicate that. Then it's like, I don't know if I want to fucking replicate that. God. Somebody bang on this beer can. Okay. Oh, man. Quick, throw the drummer down the stairs.
You said an elevator shaft. I was going to go, I would have gone with a stairway, but
Stairs, elevator shaft, I mean, whatever. It's just awful.
a cacophony of like
I said, the guitar, it was just like somebody in the background trying to tune it and play it at the same time. I was like, oh my God,
Well, interestingly, Dr. John started as a guitar player, and he was apparently a fantastic guitar player growing up as a kid. The reason he became a piano player was because he was out on a tour with another guy by the name of Ronnie Barron, who was a singer. Barron was underage at the time, so they were out touring together. And because he was underage, his mom said to him, "Don't let anything happen to my kid, or I'm going to hold you personally responsible." Mm-hmm. Apparently, one of the shows on the tour, Dr. John walks into the dressing room, and Barron is getting pistol whipped by the promoter of the show, because apparently there was some allegation that he had slept with the promoter's wife behind the promoter's back. So Baron's getting pistol whipped. Dr. John tries to intervene because he's afraid like the mother's going to fucking kill him if anything happens to this kid. He tries to intervene. Gun goes off and blows his index finger on his right hand off.
Nice.
So they were able to sew it back on, but being the 60s, the surgery wasn't fantastic, and he was left with no feeling in the finger whatsoever. So he ended up having to switch to piano because he couldn't play guitar anymore.
Wow.
He didn't get like the Tommy Iommi finger?
Yeah, I get the little tips that Iommi uses.
Yeah.
He fucking.
No, they actually picked.
shreds.
I think, as I understand it, they actually like picked up the actual fingertip off the ground and sewed what was left of it back on.
Looks like you lost something, sir. Is this yours?
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
That's
There
what
it
the
is.
leper said
There
to the
it
hooker.
is. Keep the tip. I think we said enough.
I think we covered this one. You want to move on to the Sex Pistols?
Yeah, I think we would
Never
all.
mind the bollocks. Let's hear the Sex Pistols.
Yes.
Sure.
Hit it,
All right.
Dave.
So back in season 1, episode 4 of this podcast, we talked about the album Rust Never Sleeps by Neil Young. In the late 1970s, there was this growing feeling that music had entered a new phase. The original rebelliousness of rock and roll had transitioned into big business with jet-setting, champagne-sipping stars. And then a new genre emerged, hell-bent on tearing down everything. See, punk wanted nothing to do with the old guard. The death of Elvis in 1977 seemed symbolic. Neil looked around and feared there was no room for him in the music scene anymore. So he encapsulated his feelings in a song called Hey Hey My My. One of the lyrics reads, "The king is gone but not forgotten. Is this the story of Johnny Rotten?" In the late 1970s, the UK was filled with anger and poverty thanks to high inflation and a stagnant economy. It was trash in the streets, high unemployment, constant worker strikes. Enter punk music. It was a reaction to the decaying economic, social, and political structure. Now, some punk acts, like the Ramones, were just looking to have some fun. Others, like The Clash, were looking to start a revolution. But a few were just a primal scream, a concentrated blast of vitriol, a giant fuck you to everyone and everything. Johnny Rotten embodied the working class dissatisfaction. As he himself put it, everybody was brought up with an education system that told you point blank that if you came from the wrong side of the tracks, you had no hope in hell and no career prospects at all. Out of that came Pretentious Moi and the Sex Pistols, and then a whole bunch of copycat wankers after us. Never mind the Bollocks was the antidote for the malaise. It was pure pent-up rage. The Sex Pistols were angry about everything, and they were looking to vent to anybody who would listen. Johnny Rotten sneering and half-singing into a mic in a homemade t-shirt reading I Hate Pink Floyd. Sid Vicious, the bass player who couldn't play a note, but that was your problem, not his. Their first record deal with EMI ended shortly after their first single, Anarchy in the UK. Some workers at EMI's plant found the song so offensive they refused to participate in packaging it. Gigs were cancelled. A BBC appearance quickly collapsed into profanity. EMI dumped the band. A&M was happy to take over, pressing 25,000 copies of a new single, God Save the Queen, and holding a ceremonial contract signing in front of Buckingham Palace. Well, within weeks, they were out at A&M too. They were smashing toilets at A&M studios, verbally abusing staffers and getting into fights in local clubs. Virgin Records swooped in, and Nevermind the Bollocks was finally released. Now, some found the use of the word bollocks offensive, and some record stores actually refused to carry it. London police threatened stores with obscenity charges if they actually displayed the album cover. One store manager actually got arrested, and Virgin CEO Richard Branson covered all the costs of his defense. Newspaper columnists clutched their pearls, comparing the Pistols to the hooligans from A Clockwork Orange, but UK's working poor ate it up, finally having someone giving voice to their anger. The Sex Pistols only lasted a couple of years, Nevermind the Bollocks was their only album, but that short run had an outsized impact. Music often evolves slowly, but every once in a while something breaks in with all the subtlety of a hand grenade. First time I heard Nirvana, I hated them, but I also immediately recognized that everything had just changed. For Kurt Cobain, hearing the Sex Pistols was a similar moment. In fact, the title Nirvana's breakthrough album, Nevermind, was a direct reference to Nevermind the Bollocks. Much like the Sex Pistols, Nirvana didn't last long either, coming to an end shortly after Cobain took his own life. Neil Young may not have had Johnny Rotten's anger, but Hey Hey My My was his own act of defiance. Facing a musical landscape moving on without him, Neil made it clear he wasn't going down without a fight. Neil may have been afraid of the story of Johnny Rotten, but the short, explosive career of the Sex Pistols seemed to take its cue from another line in Hey Hey My My, the same line quoted in Kurt Cobain's suicide note, "It's better to burn out than fade away." And I yield.
Brilliant.
Yes,
Brilliant.
very, very much. Now, it should be noted, John Lydon is is kind of a conservative douche these days.
He has gotten very well. It's funny, actually. Even when I was kind of researching this album, one of the things I discovered was that he had some of those tendencies even at the time.
Yeah,
and it's just, but people were more interested in the emotion than actually what he was saying.
In the outrageous side, yeah. The antics were more important than the underlying message, I think.
Absolutely.
I do find it interesting that with the Sex Pistols, a lot of their popularity outside the music revolved around Sid. And I loved how you mentioned, yes, he could not play, but he was the theatrics that people came for.
And that was why they hired him.
Yeah.
Like Malcolm McLaren, who was managing the band, has said flat out he fucking couldn't play at all, but he had the right attitude. And that's why we stuck him on stage.
McLaren was all about creating drama and creating publicity, good or bad. He knew Sid was the what would be the catalyst to make that happen.
If you're a Sid Vicious fan and you listen to this album, you're not hearing Sid Vicious because they had to go back and overdub pretty much every bass part on the album. Right before they recorded this, their prior bass player, Glenn Matlock, had left the band to go do some other stuff. They replaced him with Sid Vicious, and then they actually had to bring him back to overdub Sid's parts because the bass playing was so awful.
Oh, yeah.
Who is the guitarist, Brian?
Steve
Jones?
Steve Jones.
Steve Jones.
Steve Jones.
Yeah.
Steve Jones.
He did Big Audio Dynamite later on. I saw those guys live. They were terrible. They were
really?
They were awful. They opened for Live, and they were awful.
So much of what they did was sampling and almost in a weird way like hip hop inspired.
It was garbage.
Well, what I was going to say is that was like 91, 92, sometime. At the time, with the technology at the time, I think what they did probably would have been very hard to execute on stage in a live setting.
Yeah, I think I saw him in like 95. So.
Was when you mentioned live, was that part of like the MTV 120 Minutes tour?
No, I don't know about that. It was in Tampa though.
Okay, now the tie back. You know where Sid Vicious got his name?
Actually, I don't.
Tell us.
He was bitten by another band member's hamster that was named Sid. And the hamster was named after Syd Barrett. So he got bitten by the vicious Sid
This makes
hamster.
me think of the bunny rabbit in Holy Grail.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
that rabbit's a killer.
so it's an interesting parallel that each became different people because of their excessive drug use and only recorded one album with a band.
There you go.
When you talk about Sid and he was better for his behavior than his actual bass playing, I was actually just watching a video this morning, which we'll put up on the Twitter. But a show where they finished performing New York, which is on the Nevermind the Bollocks album. Right at the end of it, I guess there was some guy in the front row who was there primarily to antagonize him because he actually hated the Sex Pistols. Sid takes off his bass and literally just starts beating the guy with it.
Oh, yeah. He like broke beer bottles over people, stabbed them in the face. He did all sorts of. But this album, when I talk about, the trunk of my analogous tree of rock and roll, this is definitely there. I mean, yeah, they built on the Ramones and the Clash, but they almost mastered it. I mean, it's solid, but it's sloppy solid because that's what punk is.
Yes.
It's a sloppy solid. Punk does what punk wants to do. That's what I love about it.
Yes.
And Steve Jones's guitar sound is a sound that like everyone from there on out was using. And I'm sorry, this album should be in the top 10. In 2003 and 2012, it was at 41 and it slid back here. But no, this is a top 10 album because
really can't wait to hear your ruling on this round.
well, it may, you know what? I wrote, it may not be as polished as Pet Sounds, Abbey Road, or Rumors.
Oh.
But if Nevermind that you mentioned by Nirvana, named after this album, can be at number 6, then this album should definitely be up there as well.
Say, if you give Dr. John the win, I'm going to come over there and beat you
Oh.
with my balls.
Does he are you really? Is that what you're taking away? That he's leaning towards Dr. John at this point?
He's taking off the headset and he's walking away.
Scott is storming off the stage.
Wait.
It is actually, it's really kind of an amazing coincidence that we are recording to this because, of course, the big single that I mentioned earlier, which was also on the album God Save the Queen. It always takes a little while for these shows to come out because
God Save the Queen!
Editing, clean up. We are recording this on Sunday, February 6th, this is actually the 70th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth sitting on the throne.
Yes.
So
yes.
when back in the 70s, when you heard Johnny Rotten screaming about the Queen of England, same one, because that's how long she's been there.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm gonna need a few minutes here to deliberate.
Hey, I'm sorry. One more thing I do want to mention on God Save the Queen before we move off of it. So I mentioned that A&M put the single out and then ultimately kicked them out before the album got finished. They did a big, when A&M originally signed them, they did this ceremonial signing in front of Buckingham Palace. They, like I said during my opening, they printed 25,000 copies, but then they quickly tried to sort of pull them all back after they terminated the contract. Today, that is considered, that single, you can still find those 45s floating around out there. They are considered one of the most valuable records in the United Kingdom. In 2006, a copy went for $22,000.
Nice.
Whoa.
That's not very punk, though.
No.
Punk
Well, here's
capitalism.
what is punk. So back in 2016, in the midst of Brexit, a Conservative member of Parliament said, "We need to go back to the days when TV stations would sign off every night by playing God Save the Queen," because, of course, that's also the name of the UK national anthem. So he wanted BBC to start doing that at the end of their broadcast day. That same day, BBC Two, they had a show called Newsnight, said, "We're happy to oblige," and then they started playing the Sex Pistols version.
Nice.
I dig.
So Pistols still working as a fuck you to those in power 40 years later.
Praise Sage.
Absolutely. All right. I'm gonna need a few minutes here to really think this through. So
I hope so.
All right, please take your time. I don't want you to rush to judgment.
At the moment of our birth, the universe provides a unique signature for our lives. These are your musical shenanigans horoscopes. Capricorn. Live like a boss this month by selling your mom for crack. Retail therapy is your savior. Lick fewer yellow things this month, but at the same time, don't avoid putting them in your mouth. Try not to listen to the letter L. Your lucky numbers this month are anal warts and lesbians. Aquarius. When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, peace will guide the planets, and love will steer the stars. This is a time for friends with benefits, no strings attached hookups, and experimental 3-ways after a 12-pack of Mike's Hard Lemonade. Pisces. You are likely the second son of a second son. In fact, your friends call you number 2. And it has nothing to do with your family tree. Maybe they're not really your friends. Jupiter is passing through Scorpio, so you'd better see a doctor about that rash. Syphilis. Financial windfall is headed your way. Your lucky numbers are 88, 44, 37.5, and banana. George Harrison was a Pisces, so get on your codpiece and rock. Latex. Aries. The cows are aligned in the nearest field this month. Look out for lovebirds and slap them upside the head when you see them. There's a new duck in town. You should wear more orange in your diet, and if possible, avoid laxatives. Skin marks. Your lucky number this month is C. Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. What do the planets have in store for you? Stay tuned to find out. For now, back to the podcast.
all right, folks, this was a incredibly difficult decision.
I do not envy your position.
Yeah, no. I mean, Dr. John and so many intricate nuances and all of these different sounds and all of the whole Louisiana Bayou brought to life as someone wrote. It's sounds like a post-midnight ceremony recorded in a bayou swamp. But let's not kid ourselves, folks. There was nobody that was going to take the Sex Pistols.
Thank you.
Without a tremendous fight. And I'm sorry, this is an album that's always still in my rotation, and an album that has inspired music you will still hear today. Certain guitar sounds, certain way songs are played, you can point all the way back to them. And yes, absolutely, they did derive their sounds from the likelihood of the Ramones and the Clash, but it was that whole scene that brought us, a lot of the rock and roll we have now. So yes, the Sex Pistols. I say no more.
Yay!
Praise Satan!
And unless we
Dragging over the pavement.
and we will now take yet another break.
We just want to drag balls all over the pavement. I don't know what it is.
Everything that happens for a reason. Reasons that are spelled out nightly in the movement of the stars. These are your musical shenanigans horoscopes. Taurus. You'll find adventure in unexpected places this week, Taurus. The connection between the moon and dreamy Neptune will bring romantic and inspirational vibes. Travel presents an opportunity to find love, both of self and that special someone. A relaxing getaway to Disney World may take an unexpected turn as you feel Pluto enter Uranus. Gemini. Find yourself in Aquarius and get it over with. A portmanteau of paradise awaits you. Aquamini. It's a Gemini, dumbass. This is not the month of love for you, as Mercury is currently in retrograde, and that means you're more likely to shit yourself than be successful in love. Poopies. Your lucky numbers are 0 and infinity. Cancer. Shekels will fall from trees at your local McDonald's. Filet-o-fish. There are many portents and omens for you this month, Cancer, but none which will actually impact your life. Wear less clothing, try not to smell, and perhaps shave that thing. Philodendron. Your lucky number is the word examination. Leo. Mercury, the planet of communication, shifts to Aquarius, best known for nurturing platonic bonds. Friend-zone. Perplexing conversations cause you to question long-held goals and objectives. Out of your league. Now is not the time for grand gestures, but rather to set more attainable objectives. Stop embarrassing yourself. Redirecting your energy into more realistic pursuits will prove far more productive than beating your head against a wall. Try beating something. What are your fates, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius? Stay tuned to find out. Now, back to the podcast. About fucking time.
And we're back. And we have 2 more albums. The first one is by Prince, and it was called 1999. It was the year before 2000 and Y2K and all the crazy shit. But 1999 was a lovely album. And it's up against Green Day, American Idiot.
I want to be an American idiot.
Fucking lovely album, really. I mean, talk about a direct influence from La Punka, Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
And in this round, I forget who's going first, but somebody's going to go first after I shut up.
Corey is going to jump in and talk about Prince, and then I will follow up with Green Day.
Okay, so Prince, 1999. Local TV station KTMA on Channel 23 in Minneapolis collaborated with a local dating service that was giving commercial slots between 9 p.m. and sign-off at midnight. A few of the old beta tapes have survived, and one of them actually had Prince doing a bit. So I felt that the best way to defend Prince was to use his own words from this dating service video he signed up for in 1982. Darling, it appears to me you could use a date tonight. A lover that'll do you right. Am I qualified? I got a lion in my pocket, and baby, he's ready to roar. Excuse me, but I need a mouth like yours to help me forget the girl that just walked out my door. Funny, but it seems that you're alone like me. If you are go, let's come see what we can see. My girl's gone, and she don't care at all. And if she did, so what? Come on, baby, let's roll. Whatever you heard about me is true. I change the rules and do what I want to do. I say everybody, screw the masses. We want only to have some fun. I say do whatever we want. Wear lingerie to a restaurant. Police ain't got no gun. You don't have to run. You ask me if I love you. You ask me if I'll kiss you. You ask me to forgive you. when you know I'm just an addict. I'll rub your back forever. I'll go down on you all night long. Don't say that no man has ever tasted your ice cream. Baby, you're the purple star of the night supreme. Fasten your seatbelts. Prepare for takeoff. I want to fuck you so bad it hurts. It hurts. It hurts.
Well, okay.
Hold on. Stop.
He's not done. He's not done yet.
I sincerely want to fuck the taste out of your mouth. Can you relate? Girl, it ain't no use. You might as well get loose. Work your body like a whore. I'm gonna have fun every motherfucking night. If you like to fight, you're a double drag fool. I know your heart is beating. My drummer tells me so. There's no one else like me. I'm the best you'll ever find. No one else could understand you. You're too complex. They say nothing's perfect, but they don't know you. Can you hear me? I'll buy you clothing, buy you fancy cars. But you talk to me, baby. Tell me who you really are. Give me the keys. I'm gonna tame your little red love machine. Let me take you for that ride. Come on, baby. Let me come inside. Let me come inside. Darling, it appears to me that you could use a date tonight. Ooh-wee sha-sha, cuckoo yay. And I yield.
Yeah, I want to fuck the taste out of my mouth after hearing that.
Wait. Okay.
No, I know. For a second, I will tell you, I was biting on the video dating thing at the beginning, and then you started going into all the lyrics, and so for those of you who aren't in on the joke, everything that Scott just read, as far as quoting Prince, is a direct lyric off of this album.
That wasn't Scott.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Cory. Cory, it was Scott. Sorry.
Well, sometimes you confuse me and him. That's disturbing.
It happens. It's the haircut.
And the balls on the pavement.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was actually going to talk about this. Everything you just said was a real lyric off of this album. Prince was, maybe there were others. I'm having a hard time thinking of any. Prince, for me, was like the first sort of mainstream artist I can remember who was just openly explicit about sex. I mean, obviously musicians singing about sex is not like a new thing. I mean, we talked about Kiss earlier. Like, Nothing to Lose was, Gene Simmons has said that was about him trying to convince his girlfriend to try anal sex. When we talked about Dolly Parton a couple of episodes ago, even Dolly Parton had a song on that album that was about swingers. But it was always sort of like more nod and a wink hinted at. Right.
It was always suggestive.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. When Led Zeppelin sang "You can squeeze my lemon until the juice runs down my leg,"
yeah,
everybody knew what they were talking about, but they weren't using the actual words. Right. Prince just comes out and says,
"Oh yeah."
And yeah, nobody can run away from that one lyric. Hang on. What was the full thing? Look here, Marcia. I'm not saying this just to be nasty. I sincerely want to fuck the taste out of your mouth. It's an actual quote on this album. I don't know who Marcia is, but lucky girl. Lucky girl.
I was...
Marcia.
I was kind of listening to the album, and I went, you know what? I could probably string a lot of these lyrics together.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know what I was going for. Then I realized, I was like, oh, no. This is a dating service.
Yeah.
And also, Easter egg, for those of you who don't know, KTMA was the original TV station in Minneapolis where Mystery Science Theater originally premiered.
Yes.
Before it went to cable.
Yep.
Very nice.
That was the Easter egg. Very good.
You nerds.
So yeah, I never heard any artist be this explicit about sex, although the interesting thing is, apparently it was... I don't know if it was shtick, or if it was just he knew how to rein it in, but every person who ever worked with him, including all the women producers and women artists who worked with him, said, like, in real life, he was just this shy, quiet, totally respectful guy who never said any of this kind of stuff in his personal life. Prince was the kind of guy that would steal your girl, then steal your girl's clothes, then steal somebody else's girl while wearing your girl's clothes.
Right.
And he would do it respectfully.
Well, sure. He was the original sexy motherfucker.
Yes.
No doubt about that.
Now, another thing about reading his lyrics, this is from 1982. If you look at them closely and how he puts like the names of his titles and his words together, he was texting. He's
Basically, you're right.
He's using like the letter U. He's using the number 2 and the number 4. And I'm going through this and going, what was he texting this shit to someone? Not in 1982.
No. Prince, the original sexter.
Yeah, it is a little depressing to realize that as somebody who, I'm sure you guys can too, probably know exactly where you were at midnight on 1999 when the millennium turned over. We're now on the backside of turning over to the new millennium. We're now farther away from 1999 than Prince was when he wrote this album in 1982.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And he was all of 22 at the time of this album.
He was a boy genius. I mean...
Oh, absolutely.
Instrumentalist. I mean, he played dozens of instruments, but he was also a genius in the studio. Like, I remember somebody that I was reading said that they used to just watch him. He would come into the studio by himself and write, record, playing all the instruments, write, record, and mix, and finalize a song all in a day.
Yeah. I think I did the math. His first album he did when he was 17.
Damn.
Yeah.
And doing all the
Super
instruments.
talented
Kid had chops.
Super talented guy, and criminally underrated guitar player.
Yeah, he was an amazing guitarist.
Yeah.
He's one of those examples where you hear that he uses all of these keyboards and drum machines and all because he could. He could play the instruments just fine.
Right.
But he could use like the 808 drum machine or the keyboards. It didn't matter because he could play the actual instrument itself if he wanted to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, he was just absolutely amazing. I think it was, I forget who I was reading an interview with. It might have been Clapton. It might have been somebody else. But there's this old story that somebody was interviewing one of these guys and said, well, what's it like to be the world's greatest guitar player? And the response was, I don't know, go ask Prince.
No shit. Yeah. He was a stunning guitarist. Yeah.
It's a very pop album.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But just even, I kind of pulled all the greatest hits here with the lyrics, but the man was a master with his lyrics as well.
Oh, God, yeah.
Absolutely.
God, yeah. You the Fasten Your Seatbelts line that you read, that came from a track that I had never actually listened to this entire album. I mean, I knew the singles, but I'd never sat down and listened to the whole album. That Fasten Your Seatbelts line comes from the last track called International Lover. And I actually wrote down in my notes, how have I never heard this before? Because I thought it was fantastic. I don't know if it's because it has this like old school R&B feel, which I've always been into, but then also the witty lyrics that he kind of lyrics on top of it. I thought it was... I actually added that one to a couple of playlists on my own.
What can we not say about Prince?
Yeah, I the only bad thing I have to say about him was that sadly in the last part of his life he got back into the Joho thing and he stopped doing a lot of the old stuff.
Yeah, some of those later albums, like I remember the album Diamonds and Pearls came out, and I think everybody kind of went, "What the hell happened to Prince?"
Yeah. That's okay.
That's not the album we're looking at. No. So we're comparing Prince at his height here. So
the young, sexy Prince. Fuck yeah. Moving on up.
So I'm gonna jump in and tell you guys a little bit about.
Sorry.
To the green top?
For a thought I said.
To a deluxe apartment in the sky.
For a second, I thought you sang "We're moving on up to Detox."
Nope. I don't know what I was saying. I'm just babbling here.
Okay.
But that's what I do.
All right.
That's my job.
Let's talk about Green Day.
Green Day.
So, the idea of a well-known musician using their platform for political or social commentary is not new. There's literally hundreds of examples. Billie Holiday, Bob Dylan, or to use an example we just discussed recently, Rage Against the Machine. But just like nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, nobody expected that out of Green Day. Their breakthrough album, Dookie, was enjoyable enough, but it was basically about disengagement. If the Sex Pistols were all pent-up rage, Green Day was mostly about getting high, watching TV, and jerking off. By the turn of the millennium, they found that they had disengaged in another way. Some personal tensions within the band had been coming to a head. Breaking up had been seriously discussed. Bassist Mike Dirnt and drummer Trey Poole viewed lead singer Billy Joe Armstrong as controlling. Armstrong, for his part, felt they were too critical, so much so that he feared showing them new material he'd been developing. But they trudged on, spending most of 2002 recording tracks for a new album, Cigarettes and Valentines. If you haven't heard it, join the club. No one has. Their prior album, 2000's Warning, had been a departure from the pop-punk that made them stars, and Cigarettes and Valentines was meant to be a return to their harder, faster punk roots. But just as the album was nearly complete, disaster struck. The demo master tapes were stolen out of the studio. For a band already on the verge of collapse, that could have been the final blow. But their producer told them to sit down and ask themselves if those missing tracks really represented their best work. and after talking it over, they couldn't honestly say this was the best thing we'd ever done. So they decided to move on and try something completely new. They spent the next 3 months writing. They challenged themselves to write 30-second songs, an idea that it yielded a couple of interesting pieces. They took the most interesting ones and started stringing them together until they felt like they had something. Out of that came the 9-minute story song Jesus of Suburbia, and out of that came the idea to try a rock opera. At the time, George W. Bush was still president, and America's military was still mired in Iraq. Billy Joe worried about how hateful, impressionable, and scared U.S. citizens were after 9/11. The war troubled Armstrong, as did TV images of cable news reporters seemingly cheering it on. Quote, they had all these Geraldo-like journalists in the tanks with the soldiers getting the play-by-play. It hit a tipping point when Armstrong heard Lynyrd Skynyrd's That's How I Like It on his car radio. Here's a bit of the chorus. Like my women hot and my beer ice cold, real fast car and my whiskey old. I can drive slow down an old dirt road, that's how I like it. I can turn my music way up loud, ain't nothing better than the sound of a crowd. American flag, it makes me proud, that's how I like it. Armstrong responded by saying, it was like, I'm proud to be a redneck, and I was like, oh my god, why would you be proud of that? Out came the single American Idiot, summarizing all of these frustrations into just 3 lines. I'm not a part of the redneck agenda, now everybody do the propaganda and sing along to the age of paranoia. The album became the story of Jesus of Suburbia, a suburban adolescent looking for something bigger. Jesus seeks adventure by moving to the city, only to become disillusioned and return back home. As they were trying to do with Cigarettes and Valentines, it was a return to their punk sound, but it also pulled in other influences, like a pedal steel guitar or African rhythms. Not unlike Nevermind the Bollocks, it was a giant middle finger in the face of a post-9/11 society. And, much like Rage Against the Machine, it's only become more relevant as time has moved on. Cable news channels and politicians now openly embrace provable lies, anything to turn out the angry voters. At a 2019 festival, Billy Joe tweaked the lyrics a little bit. I'm not a part of the redneck agenda became, I'm not a part of the MAGA agenda. Green Day is still pop-punk fun, but now they're also known for their political and social conscience. It's kind of amazing what you can accomplish when you get off the couch, put down the bong, and pull up your pants. And I yield.
Amen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's such a good album. I there's so many songs on there that I still listen to a lot of that album these days. I'm just fanboying here.
But American Idiot, I mean, it's even more relevant. It wasn't just,
Absolutely.
It's just not the media, it's social media too. I mean,
Yes.
it's all overlap, and you picked out the perfect lines from it. Don't want a nation under the new media. Can you hear the sound of hysteria? The subliminal mindfuck America. It's perfect.
And Holiday, so the song Holiday was written,
Yeah.
Armstrong had in mind, he was focused on politicians who were deliberately trying to alienate one group in an attempt to buy the votes of the other group. And at this point, 20 years later, that's Republican politics in a nutshell. Everything is a culture war. Should you wear a mask in the face of a pandemic? That's a culture war. Should you get vaccinated? That's a culture war. It's all about putting A versus B, because when you do that, then A gets pissed off and shows up to vote.
Yep.
I've taken it one step further this week, or this show, where our 24-hour news channels, they seem to extend Orwell's 2 minutes of hate into their 24-hour cycles.
Yeah.
And the 2 minutes of hate was a break in the day where all party members stop their work, stand before screens, and shout true vitriol, hatred against enemies of the state. So here's the quotes from the book that really just make this even scarier. The next moment, a hideous grinding speech, as of some monstrous machine running without oil, burst from the big telescreen. It was a noise that set one's teeth on edge and bristled the hair at the back of one's neck. The hate had started. The horrible thing about the 2 minutes hate was not that one was obligated to act a part, but on the contrary, that it was impossible to avoid joining in.
Wow.
And that just fully
Pretty much
depicts the people.
That's 2022 in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The people that sit in front of their screens, that watching whatever news channel they're watching, it's just reinforced and reinforced.
Yeah.
And it's impossible for them to not join in on the hate and the bullshit, the misinformation. Because you hear it so much that they suddenly think it's true because they've heard it 50 times.
Welcome to the echo chamber that is this year.
Yes. So
Last year.
American Idiot definitely
It's the
just
last 10 years, unfortunately.
So this album fully is just, like we talked about with Rage.
Yeah.
even close to 20 years later, here it is.
Right. It's not just a question of being still relevant. It's actually a question of being more relevant.
It's very relevant
Yes.
these days. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, talk about a good matchup there.
Yeah.
This is a tough matchup.
Yeah.
Unlike the last one.
I will be taking my serious cap outside, putting my balls back in my pants, and not scraping them on the pavement while I deliberate on this.
Okay. And does anyone else have anything else to say? I'm good.
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
If you wanted, we can also record we could try this little game that I have here. Maybe that can be our filler while Scott is deliberating.
Okay, let's.
I don't want to dip my French fries in that.
So while I don't even know what that means. So Scott, as you are entertaining your decision, did have sort of a little somewhat related quiz for you guys.
All right.
That you might be interested in taking.
Sure.
So I mentioned that American Idiot was inspired by this Lynyrd Skynyrd song, right? Well, it was inspired by a bunch of things, but what really pushed him over the edge was this Lynyrd Skynyrd song. So
Sure.
found a few other songs that were actually were inspired by or written as a response to other songs. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to give you guys a song, and I'll give you 4 multiple choice answer, and you have to tell me which artist inspired the song that we're talking about. All right. So we're going to start with Roberta Flack's "Killing Me Softly." All right. Was that inspired by A, Don McLean, B, Chris Christopherson, C, Al Green, or D, Nat King Cole?
God, Don McLean kills me every fucking time that song comes on.
I'm going to say Nat King Cole. Because
All right,
I kind of want it to be.
Scott's going with D, Nat King
I'm going to
Cole.
go with Al Green.
The correct answer was A, Don McLean.
I was right the first time.
So Killing Me Softly was originally written by a woman named Lori Lieberman, who had just seen Don McLean perform in Los Angeles. In fact, the original song, the title was Killing Me Softly with His Blues. It got changed later. So Lieberman, Don McLean had just done the song Empty Chairs, which is all about sort of a woman leaves him, you don't know what you got till you're gone, theme that you heard 1,000 times, right? Well, it was just a good moment because Lieberman had just gotten out of a bad breakup. She grabs a cocktail nap and writes out a poem that becomes Killing Me Softly.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, next one. Meatloaf's 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad. Was that inspired by Dusty Springfield, Patsy Cline, Elvis Presley, or Willie Nelson?
Oh, Willie.
Patsy.
The correct answer is C, Elvis Presley.
Jesus.
We suck.
So,
Right.
all right.
Well, you know.
So first you need the lyric, I want you, I need you, but there ain't no way I'm ever going to love you. Don't be sad. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Oh, I want you, I need you, I love you.
So there's an Elvis
Elvis.
song called I Want You, I Need You, I Love You. Exactly. Jim Steinman, who wrote most of Bad Outta Hell, was getting Clive Davis breathing down his neck because the song was like the album so far, it was so like huge and overwrought. Clive Davis said, can you dumb it down for just one fucking track so that we have a single to release from this thing? So Steinman sits down to write, and his radio is playing in the background, and the Elvis song is on, and that the rest is history.
There you go. Yeah, that was a bloated masterpiece, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, last one. All right. Joy Division's Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Wow.
Was it inspired by The Smiths, Captain and Tennille, Donnie and Marie, or Aerosmith?
I'm going with the Captain.
I was going to say Donnie and Marie.
Cory, you are correct.
I got one!
Oh.
All right. So
Love will keep
Captain
us
and Tennille
together.
have probably the cheesiest song ever written. Yes. So Ian Curtis from Joy Division. Ian Curtis was married, and he had fallen in love with another woman who was not his wife, and he was walking around dealing with a hell of a lot of guilt. And the Captain and Tennille song "Love Will Keep Us Together" comes on, and that's all about a spouse who cheats, but they get back together. And frankly, that just made him feel even more guilty than he already felt. So in response, he sits down and writes "Love Will Tear Us Apart."
Some cheap talking whore comes along, singing her song, sucking my dong. Making it long. Stop
Captain
now, because I really love you. Stop now. Just thinking of you. Look, put it in your ass and let love keep us together. Yeah, whatever.
Captain Lou Albano and Tennille.
Yeah.
Captain what?
Captain Lou Albano and Tennille.
Yeah, Captain Ahab and Tennille.
Captain Anal and
Lou
Tennille.
Albano was the wrestler, the pro wrestler
Oh,
in the 80s with the wrestling.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. That was Randy. No, that was, what's his name? The Macho Man.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. You're thinking Snap Into a Slim Jim guy.
Yeah,
whatever
that
his
guy.
name is. I can't
Randy
think.
Savage, yeah.
Yes, there you go.
All
Okay,
right,
well-
and we're
So there's your
back.
little game, folks.
That was
There's
a
your
great
Yes,
game.
and you know what? That was a good little break. So, Scott, I think that's given you time to think and ponder and
It has.
make your decision.
I've thought about many of my bad life choices, and
Come as we commune with the universe, seeking answers and guidance. These are your musical shenanigans horoscopes. Virgo. Virgo, you lucky motherfucker, you. You're an overachiever and usually the first one to the break room for the hottest coffee. This month, you are gonna shine, 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 because Uranus is doing his bent-over dance through your constellation at the peak of the month. We just like saying Uranus. So buy that crypto and bet it all on the Jets. Oh, wait a minute, sorry, that says Mets. Your lucky numbers are the 33rd through 64th digits of pi. Libra. Begin your month with a long, hot bath. After drinking the whole thing, try not to piss yourself. Adult diapers. Fear being near walls. Avoid liver and Coca-Cola, and perhaps try a dish made from purple trout. Lucky numbers this month are bacon and pancakes. Don't forget the syrup. Scorpio. You'll feel empowered as Neptune moves away from Orion. This is a time for power plays and taking control. Dominance. This is your moment to take charge. Who's your daddy? So carpe diem, Scorpio. The world is yours. Take what you want, others be damned. Strap it on. Sagittarius. You are the sexiest person on your block, aren't you? Hot piece of ass. You ooze such greatness that people turn and look when you walk by, and you know what? This month is only going to get better. You're going to make an amazing discovery. The crystal balls are foggy. So I cannot tell you if it's a buried treasure or a corpse, but it's going to be big for you, like OJ big. Your lucky numbers are the ones the barista wrote on the bottom of your latte this morning. Avoid cheese, and be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Little Orphan Annie decoder ring. And now, as the first streaks of sunrise paint the horizon, the stars fade and speak no more. What secrets will they reveal when darkness returns? Tune in next time for more musical shenanigans horoscopes. Not doing this again.
the albums, yes. 1999 and Green Day, American Idiot, me, and you know, I'm gonna have to. As much as I love Prince, I'm gonna give the win to Green Day because the album,
2 for 2 today.
the album, Green Day, that album is just so much more relevant, and I don't know, just, you know.
So Rolling Stone agrees with you on the first round. Sex Pistols came in at 80. Dr. John came in at 356. However, round 2 was in fact an upset. Green Day was at 248 compared to Prince's 130.
Really? For that?
So,
Well,
Yep.
also think about this. Everything else, like when we even go back to our last show with Janet Jackson's Control, a lot of those sounds and everything, and a lot of the R&B sounds that came out in the late 80s and so forth, we can all point back to Prince.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he
Actually,
probably
I was
wrote all
I
their
just
songs.
Read this morning. I just read this morning. I actually almost put this in my little quiz there, but just read this morning that the opening keyboard riff in Phil Collins' Susudio
Yes,
was pretty much directly out of 1999.
from Delirious. I read that too. And when they asked him about it, Phil Collins just went, I was listening to that album at the time I wrote it. So yeah, it's quite possible.
That's what you get when you let a drummer near things.
This is true. I'll take that. All right, so you ready for the next round?
Hit us.
Absolutely.
Tell us what it is.
Okay.
Scrape your balls.
All right, in round 1, it will be Naz with the album Illmatic up against the band Sparks with the album Kimono My House.
Okay.
In round 2, and I seriously rolled these. I cannot make this up. We have Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison
Nice. Nice.
against the Allman Brothers at Fillmore East.
Oh my God.
2 live albums.
That is a hell of a matchup right there.
Yeah. Well, Johnny's sort of my spirit animal, so yeah.
All right, so that's what you can look forward to. I guess I should have screwed up the pronunciation of one of them.
You should have. You need to try harder.
You did Gris Earlier.
Well, I just meant of these. I should have just maybe said,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Johnny Cush,
or just Kimono.
yeah, there you go. The Allman Brothers.
Or I could have mixed the albums. I could have just said Johnny Cash at Fillmore Prison and the Allman Brothers at Folsom East.
It might have made as much sense to people these days. They don't know where the fuck the Fillmore East was.
This is true.
This is true.
This is very true.
Back in the days,
Right.
kids. We'll
Yep.
tell you stories after we stop dragging my balls around.
And you can follow us on Twitter.
At M_shenanigan.
Yes.
And I think that's it.
You can put your penis into
All right.
things and grind it up.
That is up to you.
Yeah, that's
Sound like a psychopath and put pink things on yellow things and
Yes.
dot them all with eyes and
Penis grinding
sparkles.
optional.
There's lots of sparkles. We'll have sparkly things. There will be sparkles and unicorns and ducks with rainbows. There's a little black duck on the sun today. It's the same old duck as yesterday. That's Marco up there.
nothing more to say.
It's a carnival in my head.
It is. It's what you see on the side of the carnival.
This is why drugs are a bad idea, children.
Yes. Thank y'all. We appreciate
All
it.
right. Thanks, everybody.
Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye. And stop.